Hey guys, this is Chris from Deus Ex Machina and GMS Magazine. Yes, I'm on the GMS Magazine website. I am on their YouTube page. I am doing my reviews here from now on so I can be a bit more impartial and not connected to my company page. And the inaugural title that I received for this channel is Angel Fury by Daniel Frilaxius. Frilaxius?
Abdominal snowman. Abominable. Abominable? Abominable. 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 The abominable.
This guy. Anyway, so Angel Fury is a game that's been developed independently by this company and not by a larger company, which is the situation with Terraforming Mars. Now, you would think, even with that title from the creators of Terraforming Mars, that this would have been a high-profile title. But to be honest, I have not heard of this title. I hadn't until they offered to send me a review copy. This went on Kickstarter some time ago, and I was shocked at how little it made. It raised less money than my last 3 campaigns did, and I'm a nobody. So I was a bit surprised to discover that not only this existed, but it kind of fell under the radar. I was also surprised they offered to send me a review copy. So I'm happy to do a review, but first, in this video, we're going to do an unboxing. We're going to show you what's in this box of Angel Fury, and then we're going to do in a second video, we're going to learn the game and we're going to review the game. So let's get this thing open.
Abominable. 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 Abominable.
So here it is, Angel Fury, Battle for a Human Soul. First of all, I love that subtitle, the Battle for a Human Soul. Not for human souls, but a human soul. At least implying a very specific battle for just one person. And I love that idea. Flip this puppy over, take a look at the back. And we can see here, we got minis, we've got a few of them. Got a lot of dice. It's going to assume this is a competitive game. I assume this is a one-on-one game. Puppy open. Interesting, there's a bit of a tear there. Big man. Oh, there is a comic. Look at that. So we have a setup. We have a story. Welcome to the world of the unseen. We've got ourselves angels and so forth. We got our board. Interesting how it's laid out. Seems like you lay down all the miniatures on the table. It's almost like an elaborate chess set. Seems straightforward. We have cards. And then a legend to explain what all that means. And we have a turn order thing right there. Move that aside. Next thing we have here is a board. This is obviously going to be the main board where almost everything takes place. It is not that big as you thought. It's actually relatively small. I'm going to zoom out. And we can see here how it looks. It's just a traditional grid, very large grids. You can see how big they are. And that's, I assume, is the battle board. Okay, so that's out of the way. We have here, these are character boards, I assume. And I find it interesting. How many players does this go up to? Despite my assumption that this would be a 2-player game, it actually goes up to 4. So it makes me wonder if it's, even though it goes up to 4, if it's a 2-on-2 at best. So could you play with 3? Or is this going to be a situation where 4 players are going at it against each other? That's going to be very interesting, because this assumes a 2-player variation, but this is apparently a game that goes up to 4 players. This kind of reinforces it, as there's only have 2 of these, one for, I assume, the side of light and the side of darkness, or the side of order and the side of chaos, depending on the scenario. Not sure what that is. 2-player marker. I have a smaller board. So we actually do have 2 boards. However, interestingly, this one is significantly larger. Squares are the same size. It's just 2 squares smaller on each side. I know we come for the minis, so let's take a look at these minis. There we are. So that, I assume, is the leader of hell. And oddly enough, there's two, because I guess it goes to 4 players, so there is the other one. And then the side of light. And we have our 2 angels here. It should be noted, and this is nothing really against the design, there is a bit of detail, but this is, the plastic is a little, I mean, it's plastic, not resin. So we have a little lackluster in detail, like you can see in the face. There isn't a lot of detail in the face. And they're not on bases, obviously. So I would put these minis at about, maybe a 7, maybe a 6.5 in detail. So they're not as detailed as something you would see from 40K or even from Awakened Realms, but they're not so bad. Here we have the sub-troops. I guess these are lieutenants. We have the demons and we have heaven. I actually will salute them on the angel design for having 6 wings. You don't really often see that. Most use the traditional 2-wing structure, and so to have 4 wings is actually really, it's kind of a bit more Old Testament. We also have 4 arms as well, but 6 wings. If they were really going Old Testament, this would not be humanoid at all. That's another conversation. And then we have a variation, kind of the Grim Reaper. Interestingly enough, there are no punch boards. And then we have, I assume, there are rank and file. Oops, sorry. And assuming we have here our rank and file. Let's see if we can get a view on that. So that is your kind of traditional bad guy. And we actually have different variations. There's another variation. There's another variation. And yet another variation. So 4 different types of enemies. It should be noted that we do have them for all the characters. So we have, here are the 4 for white, and they all have their own tray. So white gets their own, orange gets their own, and of course seeing here we have yellow gets their own, and then black gets their own tray there. We've got some incredibly, I won't say cliche, but often used beads. Like these jewel beads, you see them everywhere. I've seen them used in Who Goes There. You can actually order these bulk from sites, so it's not a mark against them, but it is a surprising shock to see that. We've got cards, which I'll open in just a second. Interesting, there's a display here. I assume this is where the dice go, but I am not sure. And over here we have what looks to be terrain. These are actually interesting. They're 2-tone. Let's take a look. Yeah, this has been assembled pre, so it's a water feature. So this is a situation where you don't actually have to paint these. In fact, you may not want to paint any of these because they're all color-coded, but that's interesting how it actually comes painted. Kind of reminds me of Terraforming Mars, to be honest, the later versions. And then we have, so those are water features. The other one is a crystal feature, and that's kind of neat. Look at that, eh? Crystals. That's actually one of the coolest things I've seen so far in this box. Very traditional discs. Interestingly enough, black and white. I don't see discs for orange or yellow, so I assume these are used for something else. Likewise for the dice. We've got a bunch of unique dice. They're etched. Actually, they're etched. And we have 2 colors of those, white and black. So these cards are interesting. They look a little small. Look smaller than standard cards. Maybe it's just me. Very, very basic, although there are some with illustrations. And we see, I wonder if this game has deck building elements. It'd be hard to figure out the organization to see here, whether or not you have, these are just 4 for a reason, or whether or not there's actually 4 different types of cards. Now it should be noted they actually sent us bonus material. These extra packs came outside of the box. So we can see more of these, more of these. We're going to figure what these are out in just a second, and whatever the heck these are. Because these cards are, I figured out, larger. Could be objective cards. They almost look like the larger commander cards that you see in Star Realms. And I wonder if that theory is correct. And then we got more of them with this deck here. You can see these look like characters, potentially. So looking at the components, my theory, I think, is almost 100% correct. There are starting cards, as suspected, for each color. We have character cards, which we've noticed. And then we have training decks. And 31 cards for each angels and demons. So they each have their own cards. So that's interesting. So 1, 2, 3 for those. I can see separating these into different. And then we have solo cards. So that's what those were. Those are solo cards. 40 crystals, angel markers, demon markers, angel dice, demon dice rulebook, 2 game boards, 2 training grounds, and 4 player boards. Interesting. And then we have, as suspected, the living water fountain and the crystal mountains. The first player team to reach, aha! See, that's theory there. This game probably cannot be played with three players. So it's either 1-on-1 or 2-on-2. I like that, by the way. I don't see a lot of 2-on-2s. It's usually everyone against each other, fully cooperative, one against all. You don't see a lot of 3-on-3 or 2-by-2. That actually is a format that we should see more of. And I know it's very unique because it creates a situation where you can't play with 3 or 5 players. But it's something I don't see very often, and I'm kind of happy about that because it does have some cooperation with 2 people. Now, you might assume that I would team up with my wife, but I actually like the idea of teaming up with my friend and have our significant others team up on their side. I think that would be very interesting. So that is Angel Fury. I'm going to see these cards again. So I've separated, these are the character cards. There's a starting card and then there's a tactic card. So these are the 4-player decks. Now the game claims that there's 8 character cards. There's actually 14. I assume this is because of the promotion. And we have got some for the sides of light and the sides of darkness. So according to the manual, these are also unique starting cards. I don't know how they're disseminated, but these are unique starting cards for the character decks. So that means we're leaving these for last. These are the training decks, 31 cards each for angels and demons, or actually angels and demons. Finally, we're left with these 2, and I think these were in the bonus because they are not listed anywhere. So I don't know what these are. So at 7 different types of decks and 4 slots to put them in. So I assumed correctly that these larger cards, as they don't fit there, they go on top of here, although they're not 100% flush. So there you go. You are kind of left wondering how to repack this. As you can see, there's a gap here, which I assume that's where that goes. And then these go here, although there was another, yeah, there's a smaller board. That goes into this opening right there. This goes into this opening right here. So not a game trades design, but still pretty good. And then finally the manual, which we're going to learn, and we'll get a review out as soon as possible. So that is Angel Fury by Daniel Phylaxis.
The abominable, 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 abominable.
I'm going to say, I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong. And this has been Chris. Oh, it's a tight box. This has been Chris from Deus Ex Machina and GMS Magazine.